Our next and last item on the agenda is a communication from Mayor Bronin with the accompanying resolution confirming the nomination of Interim Chief Operating Officer Thea Montanez as Chief Operating Officer. Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening. Good evening, Council President Rosado, members of City Council, city staff, and community members. As the proud granddaughter of a former custodian at the Hartford Public Schools and the daughter of a retired carpenter foreman at Hartford Housing Authority, I'm both deeply honored and humbled to be before you this evening as the mayor's nominee to the position of Hartford's next Chief Operating Officer. It's been 4 years since I was appointed as Mayor Bronin's Chief of Staff, and it's been 16 months that I've also served in the dual role as the city's interim COO, during one of the most challenging times in the city's history. In both capacities, I've helped manage nearly every aspect of city government, including the oversight and day-to-day operations of 13 departments, 1,400 employees, 7 bargaining units, and a $573 million operating budget. Throughout this time, I've gained invaluable experiences and insights into the workings of municipal government. However, the most valuable lessons I've learned about managing the city's operations has not come from my management experience. Instead, it has come from the nearly 30 years of experience I've gained from trying to access government services on behalf of my family. Every time I entered a courtroom, a juvenile detention center, and a correction facility, I learned the importance of treating everyone with respect and dignity because I've experienced the feeling of shame and powerlessness when you are treated as less than. Every time I completed a Section 8 application, HUD income verification form, or appealed the denial of disability benefits on behalf of those that I love, I learned the importance of creating processes that are easy and simple to understand, because I've experienced the feeling of frustration and defeat when your ability to access quality housing and health care is contingent upon your ability to navigate complex and bureaucratic systems. And every time I've been considered for a promotional opportunity as a woman of color in a male-dominated industry, I've learned the importance of valuing diversity and lived experience, because I know what it feels like to be underestimated and undervalued. It's these personal experiences and the personal experiences of our residents that have informed and inspired the new programs and operational initiatives that I've led to more effectively and efficiently serve the needs of our community, and they motivate me every single day. While we have made progress in improving the operations of city government, we have much more to do. It's my love, respect, and deep admiration for the people of Hartford and their courage and strength that have brought me to this point in my career. And it's that same love, respect, and admiration that has kept me here, because there is no other city I wish to serve. In closing, I want to take a minute to thank all of the city employees and my immediate staff for their hard work and dedication. They are the ones that make city government work for our residents. I look forward to your questions and discussing our shared priorities.
Thank you. I'll now open up the floor for questions from my colleagues.
Madam President, through you. Certainly you've served the city well in the last 4 years in your 2 positions. What in your, I have your resume here in front of me. What do you think in your past work experience most lends itself to the COO position?
Sure. I think I've been very fortunate to work in both the public and private sector. I've owned my own small business in Hartford, and I've also volunteered for several nonprofits that serve the Hartford community. I think having the experience of working with so many different community stakeholders have allowed me to work with all of the different people in our community that we must serve. And I think it's really important as we're doing this work to have that perspective, because everybody experiences our community differently. They all have different priorities. And I think having worked again within the public and private sector has been really helpful in helping me understand how we can do better.
Thank you. Councilman Mitchum.
Thank you, Madam President. Ms. Montanez, you mentioned the oversight role that you have for all of the different departments, and I actually don't have very many concerns about your ability to do that. It seems like that's gone well, but I have a concern about our ability as a council also to have a role in that oversight. And I think one example, I know you were sitting here in the room when Interim Chief Thody was being questioned, and I asked whether he had there had been any review of his performance done, and he said there had not. Now, the city charter says, and I'm just going to quote a little bit, it says, "The mayor shall conduct or cause the COO to conduct an annual evaluation of each department head." And I actually just learned this past week that this mayor just doesn't do that. He has weekly meetings and monthly meetings with no written reports generated and with no identified goals nor measurement of meeting goals over time, which I have great faith that you all managing the department heads can keep track of things, but for us, it would of course be useful to see which department heads have met the identified goals, which haven't, especially like when we're interviewing someone for another job, to be able to look at what they've done in a written form that is conscientious and thorough. So I guess my question to you is, as Chief Operating Officer going forward, will you conduct annual written evaluations of all department heads?
So I just want to mention a couple of things in terms of the strategic goals of every department or the metrics that they set for their performance. All of that information is part of the annual budget that's adopted by council. So you can see that information for the various departments if you wanted to see what are the priorities and goals that they've set for themselves and that the numbers that they have to achieve. In addition, on a quarterly basis, and what I hope to do if confirmed is to provide a quarterly report to the council so that we are also informing you of the progress that we're making, but also being very transparent in terms of the challenges that we face every day. And that's a written document that, of course, we would provide.
That would concern each department?
Yes, yes, yep.
Thank
Every
you.
operating department. You're welcome.
Councilman Gale.
Thank you, Madam President. If you could speak for a couple of moments as to what you would see as your goals for, let's say, the next 4 years as a COO here.
Sure. During the past 4 years, given our budget constraints, there have been a lot of sacrifices that have been made, and I think our employees have made huge sacrifices. They deserve more than we can ever afford to give to them. And so one of my top priorities is to work with our employees to develop an employee development and recognition program so that they know and understand that they are valued and appreciated, so that they have the training that they need to be able to do their jobs well. And I believe if our employees feel good about the work that they're doing, that they'll just provide higher quality services to our community. So it's one of the things I hope to do in partnership with our Human Resources Office. The second goal is to create more collaboration, cross-departmental collaboration around quality of life issues. So for example, just this summer I became aware that the Hartford Police Department had been dispatched over 50 times to one residential property because that property was illegally operating as an adult entertainment club, casino, tattoo parlor, and bar. After I became aware of this activity, I convened a meeting of the 6 departments that had separately been trying to deal with this one property. And together, we came up with a coordinated plan. I'm proud to say that within a couple of weeks of this group convening, we shut down the illegal operation that was occurring there. And we actually, when the property was being shut down, we actually had homeowners come out with their children and thank the city for their efforts because they had felt very unsafe given the activity that had been happening at the property. So I think it's more of that cross-departmental coordination that's going to be critical if we're ever going to effectively deal with these quality of life issues. I think the other, example I can point to involves, actually it was inspired by an 11-year-old boy on May 26th of 2018. He was shot. He survived. Mayor Bronin met with him and his mother the next day. I then followed up the following week, and I discovered he had 5 different nonprofit organizations that were working with them, the family, and neither of these organizations realized that. That little boy inspired what we have today, which we refer to as the Rapid Response Protocol. So for the first time ever in the city of Hartford, if you are a young person, 25 and under, and you are the victim of violence, the city of Hartford immediately contacts you to figure out what can we do, how can we help? How can we ensure this never happens again? Again, this is the first time that we've done this, but we do it in collaboration with about 20 or so different organizations representing our educational systems, various state agencies, as well as our youth providers. So it's more of that kind of cross-collaboration that I hope to be able to focus on during the next 4 years.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Through you, Madam Chair, congratulations, Ms. Martinez, on your nomination. Thank you. Just lost it there for a second. To be the City of Hartford COO. The COO is the heart of the city operation. I believe a successful COO is someone who is collaborative, innovative, demonstrate a high level of quality customer-focused operation. Give an example of how would you demonstrate this service to the Hartford resident?
An example of the quality of service?
Yes, a high quality of service.
A high quality of service. I mean, I always want our residents to feel that they are being treated with respect and compassion always, whether they're walking to the tax office or, you know, they're calling to the Department of Public Works for a bulky appointment. I want every resident to feel as though they are being heard and seen and respected.
Okay, great. Would you consider yourself a hands-on, or hands-off? Describe your management and leadership style and what it would be like to work for you.
Okay, I have some people here. I don't know if they have any opinions. I would say I want to be a thought partner. I want to be supportive to our team. I don't think my job is to do their jobs. I think it's to ask questions and figure out, what do you need? What barriers are in your way? And so in having conversations with our different department heads and trying to understand what's preventing you from providing better service, why is it taking so long for us to follow up on a particular issue? It's in those conversations that I discover maybe we need to change policy in partnership with the city council. Maybe we need help. Maybe there's a nonprofit partner in the community that can maybe help us deal with this issue that we're just not equipped to deal with. So I think my style has always been to figure out, how can I remove those barriers? I ask a lot of questions. I don't make assumptions. I like to give people the benefit of the doubt, but I ask a lot of questions because I genuinely want to understand what's the root of the issue, and I just don't ask questions from one person. I tend to ask questions from many of the people that are either dealing with the same issue or maybe trying to problem solve as well.
Oh, thank you. One last question. Over the last 15 months, I'm sure you have been involved in budget preparation. What worked well and what didn't in your involvement in the budget preparation?
In the budget planning process?
Yes, you know, every year we go through this budget where the department has to, you know, give the mayor and the school their budget for the department by January 29th, I think, the end of January. Have you been through that process before?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
What worked well for you and what didn't?
Got it. Thank you. I think a couple of things. The budget planning process can be really overwhelming. You know, there are these key deadlines that we have to meet, and oftentimes, you know, in working in partnership with the budget office, they will send emails with attached documents, and our department heads within a 2-week period are expected to produce budgets and business cases. And one of the lessons we learned from the past couple of years is that we need to do a better job of walking our team through that actual process. So for the first time, the OMBG team created a packet. We actually scheduled time during a leadership meeting. It was a mandatory meeting. And we had everybody come in and actually walk through the process, so they had an opportunity to ask questions. Having those types of documented processes, I think, are really important to ensure that people feel confident that they have all the information to provide the information that we're asking of them.
Okay. Thank you.
Majority Leader Clark.
Thank you, through you, Madam President. Congratulations on your nomination. In your upcoming role as the city's new Chief Operating Officer, how would you basically separate yourself from as being the mayor's chief of staff and working with the city council to help us find monies for nonprofit organizations that just don't have enough money to support some of their annual events, versus now becoming the chief operating officer, which now is the oversight, the manager of all city department heads.
Yeah, so I've been doing both jobs for 16 months, and I'm happy to relinquish one of them. I have no desire whatsoever to do some of the functions, not that they're not important, but when it comes to things like communications and legislative affairs and things of that nature, that will be managed by the chief of staff. And again, my sole focus is on the operations of the city and working in partnership with council to, achieve our collective goals.
So I think it was maybe 3 years ago, we passed the ordinance regarding recreation of the Human Relations Department. And you and I have had some conversation. I'm quite sure that our great finance director would like to relinquish some of that control. What's the goal and objective basically moving forward for the functionality of the department?
Sure. So currently, the Director of Human Relations sits within the Finance Department. And part of what they're charged with is ensuring that we are hiring, Hartford residents or a certain number of minority contractors throughout our procurement process, things of that nature. I think the Director of Human Relations is something that could have a much bigger impact, and it shouldn't solely be focused on one department in finance. I think we need to hold all of our city departments accountable in terms of ensuring that they're hiring residents, that our staff is diverse. So as you and I have chatted about, I think now's the perfect time, given some of the issues that have been raised within the police department and other departments, for us to create an office of equity and opportunity. And again, that we solely not hold one department responsible for achieving those goals, but we hold all of our city operating departments responsible.
Thank you for that. And with criminal justice reform being widely talked about around this nation as well as our city, what is the administration's views on really helping those returning citizens that are coming out of the system and getting them back to work and connected with various programs that they may need help for?
Sure. So this is an issue that's very near and dear to my heart. I've been visiting correctional facilities for 30 years because that's how long my loved one has been incarcerated. I'm very proud of the work that we've done in establishing the Office of Reentry Services. So we have a center here in City Hall, as you all know, where people can go when they're released to get support so that they can make a smooth transition back to community. We have talked about doing a number of different things, encouraging our employers to provide second chance employment opportunities, but not just expect that of our employers, but also of the city of Hartford. There have been so many times that I've talked to folks who have applied, and because of their criminal history, they assume that they didn't have a chance. But luckily, our department heads, in interviewing them, were very impressed by them and gave them an opportunity. There's one particular gentleman. He is somebody who about 30 years ago had committed a very serious crime. He had been released. He had been on parole or placed on parole for the rest of his life. And he had applied for a position. And unfortunately, he went through our process. And when I believe HR at the time had discovered that he had a criminal history, they deemed him unqualified, and they did not choose to hire him. That gentleman then came upstairs to see the mayor because he thought that was really unfair. And he happened to have a conversation with me. We sat down. I asked him to walk me through what had happened and what he has done since that time, since he had been released. And it turns out he had really transformed his life. I'm very proud to say we hired that man, and he is probably one of our strongest employees in the department. So I hope that we will continue to support those folks coming back home by giving them opportunities here in the city as well.
Could there be a commitment from the administration through your leadership to the city to have a process, HR process, where we can commit to hiring a certain number of Hartford residents who would have been affected by the criminal justice system?
Sure, I don't see why not. We can't give a number for ourselves.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Bermudez?
Through you, Council President. Thank you. I just have one question. So I just wanted to make sure that I heard correctly. So moving forward as CEO for the city, you would implement quarterly written evaluation performances of department heads?
So currently, I believe the COO is responsible for generating quarterly reports to the city council with updates on things that are happening within their department. And that's every single operating department is required to give updates to the COO, who then gathers that information and submits it to council in one report. So yes, I would commit to doing that. I'm required to do that if confirmed as COO.
And in reference to the performance evaluations of specific department heads?
That is something I'll absolutely consider, if confirmed.
That you would potentially do as CEO?
Correct. I would absolutely consider it.
Okay.
I have no questions. My questions have been answered.
Hello, Thea.
Good evening.
Thank you for your services for the last 4 years as Chief of Staff and Interim COO. Truly appreciate your work. I definitely recognize your work, and I know you work hard, sincere. And to your point, you try to find and what's the barriers and help to resolve or come up with a solution. And I thank you for that.
Thank you.
With that said, I have no questions for you. Congratulations on your nomination. I'd like to make a motion to send this nomination to council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. So we have a motion on the floor that has been properly seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any nays, abstentions? The ayes have it, and this resolution is being sent with a favorable recommendation back to council. Thea, congratulations. I look forward to working with you. I know that you're very dedicated, and I also know the love that you have for the city of Hartford. So with that, I thank you.
Thank you.
And I have a couple of announcements. Tomorrow, Mayor Carrie Saxon Perry, the 63rd mayor of the city of Hartford, will have a memorial service held at 5:30 at the Artist Collective located at 1200 Albany Avenue. Also tomorrow, it was scheduled the Planning, Economic, and Housing Development meeting, which has been canceled. On February 6th, we will have the special Quality of Life and Public Safety meeting. Next Monday, February 10th, we will have public comment. Will take place here in the council chambers, followed by our regular scheduled council meeting at 7 p.m. Thank you. Yes.
That the special meeting of public safety is at Classical Magnet School, correct?
Correct. Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.